Good evening everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show, and tonight we're going to be speaking all about survival stories. Now, I don't know if you remember the young lady Jackline Boateng that came on about 3 weeks ago. We didn't get to finish her story because there was just so much to it that we had to bring her on again to finish, you know, what happened to her, because she went, I'm going to like summarize everything. And then we didn't get to cover the part when she actually came to England and what happened to her over here as well. So we brought her back. We're going to be talking to her. We've also brought on someone from a group called the Lone Parent Group that actually helped Jackline get back on her feet. And also we have fireman Malcolm Castle with us as well, who's going to be talking about some of the things that he's experienced in his years as a fireman as well. And he has some great stories to tell us. And also he's going to be explaining how maybe he deals with the trauma of seeing certain things, and also about the survivors as well, of some of the things that he's been through. So I'm going to get straight to Jackline. Hello, Jackline, welcome back.
I'm good, thank you, Chris. How are you?
You're well, thank you.
Good.
So I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of your story. I do know parts of it because she has been on TV before, explaining your story. But let's just go through maybe this first part before the break about the stuff that happened in Uganda and maybe some of the things that happened to you when you came over here. So just to summarise for the viewers, you grew up in Uganda.
I did, yeah.
You were looked after by your aunties and, is that right? Your auntie?
That's correct, yeah, relatives and aunties and uncles and, yeah.
Yeah, and you were telling me last time as well that you felt a bit abandoned by your parents because your dad was in the army, was it?
I did, yeah. I did. It was quite really difficult at the time, I think. And I think looking back now, it was even more difficult. But at the time, because we were so young, it didn't have so much of an impact on us until later on. So, but it was really difficult.
Now, you suffered terrible, terrible abuse and neglect.
I did, yeah.
Because you often got beaten for the silliest of things, and it wasn't just like a little slap, was it?
No, it was constant beating and really severe beatings, to the point that I had to be put into a coma because of the beatings. And for me that was really difficult. And even like now as an adult, I still, the truth is nobody knows, because the relatives that were looking after me in that moment, they're still trying to conceal certain information because they don't want my mom finding out, because she'll be really upset. It was so difficult because constantly being beaten up, had fractured bones. Even in my adult life, I still bear some of the scars of the beatings. Like my legs, for instance, they're not straight because of the beatings and the fractures and everything. So you
actually had bones broken, fractured?
I had, arms, everything. So it was really, it was quite intense, really, really difficult. But at the time, I think because I was young and just, for me really, the way I was seeing life, it was like taking each day as it came. I never really had a moment to dream and say, oh, maybe I'm going to be alive when I'm older, when I'm 15, 20, this is what I want to do. I didn't have, for me, that was too much of a dream. So all I could do was just hold on to each day as it came.
You see how some people take like a normal life for granted? Oh yeah. There's you're a child in that situation, being constantly beaten, not being fed properly, all that kind of stuff. And there's like, and you couldn't even think about the future because you were so into what was going on then, and like all the trauma that you were going through in that particular time. And then there's kids that, you know, have got such good parents, and they complain and they moan about the smallest thing. Oh, mum doesn't let me have a phone. Oh, come on. Please, I hope there's some teenagers watching now that just complain about every little thing. Yeah. When you compare your life to what Jackline went through, you should appreciate what you have. Sorry, I'm going to the one now.
Yeah, no, it is true. It must be said, because I think sometimes what happens, and even the way I am nowadays, when I look back into my life, I actually do value and appreciate my life now. You, of course, it's not a perfect life where everything is, you know, what you want is there, but at least because I've overcome some of the issues I have overcome, even to the point my mom was saying to me a while ago, she said to me, you are just different, you're just different out of all my kids, because regardless of everything that I have gone through, it was so bad that when my mom found out, and of course it wasn't her choice for us to be abandoned, when she found out, she then was even more affected by everything that we went through. Her discovering that I was sexually abused, not once, not twice. I was neglected. And sometimes when we talk about abuse, especially in terms of kids being abused, there's different kinds of abuse. But what is mainly highlighted is the sexual abuse, the neglect, but there's all kinds of abuse. And all of those kinds, I experienced them. So it's very sad that, you know, my mum was then suffering, which was really difficult and painful for me, that she was suffering for things that I have overcome.
Why wasn't it at the time that, because she visited you from time to time, didn't she?
She didn't really visit. The one who visited us mainly was our father, and because he was a general in the army, it was really difficult for him to like have time to come and see us. And Mommy couldn't come. She came to see us once, and she was very ill.
You didn't tell her at the time what was going on?
I didn't tell her because I was so angry. I hated her. I hated her. She was, you know, I remember she probably would say this in you know, in the future. She came to hug me, and I was so cold towards her. I hated her. If looks could kill, she knew. And then she reached out for my brother, because I lost that connection, because I sort of used to have that hope of, oh, my mom one day is going to come for me, and you leave, you know, hoping. That's what I hated, dreaming. I hated dreaming. I hated, you know, planning, saying tomorrow I'm going to do this. I hated that. I really, really hated it. So for me to just, and then, because I was thinking, I used to think, oh, mommy's going to come. She never come. Mommy's going to come. She never showed up. And when you least suspect it, you say, oh, daddy's going to come.
You were living a nightmare. So it was like, because she was telling us last time she was on as well that, you know, your brother wasn't getting fed. You had to get potato scraps, peelings to go and feed him. And one time, this was like, oh my gosh, this is awful what you had to do here.
It sounds...
Do you want to tell the viewers about what happened when you couldn't hear him anymore? He'd been locked away in a barn somewhere, in a room?
Yeah, he was locked away in a room, and basically that was like part of... because he was not healthy, he was really ill, and he was like a shame to the family. And with other reasons, they locked him away in a room, and so he would stay there for days without being fed. And on this particular occasion, I was busy with house chores and everything. I didn't have time to go and feed him. And he was in the room for so many days without eating or drinking. I don't know whether he was dehydrated or he was just about to die. I don't know. But I came to find him, and
you weren't actually allowed to leave where you were, were you?
Not.
Or you'd get beaten, but you were trying to sort of get to him to go and...
I would try to find a way to sneak in to feed him, and it was really difficult, because then again I ran the risk of being beaten up for doing that. So I called and I couldn't hear him, and I went into the room calling, couldn't hear. I was outside the room because it was locked. Couldn't hear him, and then eventually he started gasping for breath and sort of spoke. But he was struggling, and he said the words that he said were, he was thirsty, he was thirsty, he was thirsty. And in that instant I'm thinking, he's thirsty, where can I get a drink for him? And if I go to get water for him, by the time I get back, probably I'm going to get found out, and then he's not going to have the water. What if he dies? Because
and how old were you at this point?
I was 8 years old, going on 9. I was for me, it was leaving, apart from serving them and doing everything that they wanted me to do, I was leaving also for my brother. So
what did you do for him?
In that moment, I was thinking, what can I do? And the thing that came to my mind was, I dug a hole in the door, and I called him to come closer to the door, and I had to sit there and squat there and force myself to pee so he could drink my urine. And he drank my urine, and he was fine. I was talking, and then I left to go and
Did you guys get that at home, what she had to do?
Yeah, and
you had to give your brother your urine to keep him alive.
It was, in that moment, I really didn't think anything of it. It was just like, you did what you had to do. I didn't think, and the thing is, he trusted me so much that if I brought him anything to eat, he would eat it. There were times where I would get him just grass or peels, food peelings, and he would just eat them. Because he knew if he didn't eat them, he was going to die. And he didn't want to die. I didn't want him to die. So that's really like the life that we lived. Abuse, 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 abuse. And it's quite strange.
Did you want to die?
I did want to die. I really did. But then I didn't want to die because I thought if I die, who's going to take care of him? So I was pretty much living for him. And the worst thing is, I lived my life sort of thinking, I became so accustomed to the abuse. And everywhere I went, it was the same thing. Everywhere I went. So for me...
So you actually moved from family
moving from one place to another, and everywhere we went, it was the same. Then we moved to another relative who I thought then they're going to kill my brother. They beat him up so badly over something so minor, so badly that they burst open his umbilical, his belly burst open.
Oh my God!
And yeah, because the stick that they were using to beat him, and the thing is because he had hernia, So it burst open to the point that you could see the inner organs. It was really disturbing, but we lived through all of that. It was horrible.
I said this last time as well, because when she tells her story, sorry, I just find it amazing that she's actually smiling while she tells her story. But that this is, and I said last time on the show, this is just proof that those, you know, people do go through awful events, terrible times like you and your brother did, but you did change your life around, and you were able to not forget about what happened, because obviously if you'd forgotten about it, you wouldn't even be able to speak about it now. You didn't forget, but she was able to move past that and be happy despite all of these awful things that happened. And it just amazes me how you have a smile on your face, and you're confident and you're speaking about it, because you've been telling me.
I'm shocked myself.
Yeah, you're telling me it was like it happened to someone else.
Yeah,
but it's not because you haven't dealt with it. That we have to be clear about that. She did deal with it. It's not like she sort of swept it under the carpet and saying, look, you know, I've just buried it and I've not faced it. It's not that kind of dealing with that I'm talking about. She's actually faced it, dealt with it, moved on. And that's now your past, and that's why you're able to come and talk about it now.
Absolutely, I had to do that, because without doing that, there's no way like I was saying earlier, I was a person that I didn't even want to dream, because for me, I was thinking, what's the point of dreaming?
But now you have dreams.
But now I dream.
And we're going to go to a break, and you're going to hear more about her story, what happened to her, because it didn't end there. A lot of things happened after that as well. So if you want to give us a call, if you'd like to comment or ask a question, anything like that, you can give us a call on 020 7686 6300. Join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show, where we're talking about survival stories, and we have a very brave survivor here. Now, you've told us about your time in Uganda. Now, what happened when you actually came over to the UK? You kind of escaped that hell. You came over here. What happened when you came here, Jackline?
When I came here, I actually thought, for the first time in my life, I was thinking, I can dream. Because
were you a teenager?
I was in my early teens.
Okay.
My early teens. And when I came here, I was thinking, okay, life is going to be... I think it wasn't even when I was coming, it's after I'd arrived, and I thought, okay, everything is different, it's a different environment. And the most interesting thing was, I thought, all those horrible things, I have left them back in my country. There's no way they're ever going to follow me. And I was so happy, really looking forward to life, excited. And then it was another phase of abuse. And at the time I was living with relatives, whereby I had to go and do the house chores and everything. It wasn't so difficult for me, because
I was
used to it. And even more, here was a lot better, because we had all, you know, to do the washing. I didn't have to do the washing by hand. I had to put it in the washing machine and just had to learn how to use all these equipments. And I thought life was good, but then it got to a stage where I thought, you know what? Here now I have to put my foot down, because it's my life. And I think some sense had hit me. That's when I was being introduced to prostitution. And with that, I thought...
Hang on. How did you get from living at home with relatives to prostitution?
Basically, what it was, well, it was quite strange. I think, I would say it was strange, and rather, sometimes it's like to sort of make sense out of it. What it was, when I came here, I had people who I used to see around family gatherings, and I thought they were family friends, relatives. I would call them uncles. They would come to me trying to have sex with me, saying that, you know, I took money. No, I paid your so-and-so, auntie, whoever, to bring you for me, from your country. I hope you know that. And I said, excuse me? I said, yes, so when you turn 18, you're going to be my wife. And I thought, okay. Then I thought it was a joke. Then someone else came.
Like something out of a film.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Real.
It was
so...
I think bad is an understatement, because at the time, I'd lived here for not so long. Then I was 15 going on 16, and it was shocking. I'm thinking, I'd never known this kind of activities, even for me. And I remember one of them came, I was in the house, the person I was living with went out to work, and then I hear the door opening. All the kids are sleeping, so I'm thinking, I'm calling out the relative I was living with, thinking, or maybe they forgot something, they're coming back. I'm there talking to them, because I was sitting down watching TV. And then I see a man walking into the house, and in my head I was thinking, you are not, I've not seen you before, who are you? And basically he came to have sex with me, and I refused. I said, I will actually call the police for you. Because I was a little bit smarter. I didn't call the police, but I was very scared. Then another one tried to rape me. It was just like one thing to another, and in some cases it was so bad that I had to sort of give in, because that was the only way. And it was it's not something that I wanted to do, but I had to do because I was thinking, if I don't do it... Why didn't you call the police at that point? Was it because they were threatening you? I was scared, yeah, they were threatening me. There was a lot of issues, and especially surrounding my status in the country. There were so many things that used to scare me. I used to ask questions, I used to ask questions. Why is it that I'm not going to school? Because even though I was back home suffering and everything, I wasn't a stupid person. I would ask questions. So you basically have sex with them because you're afraid that they will report you and get you sent back to the hell that you were going through in Uganda. And that's what I was told. So I was like, no, I can't go back to what I went through. I can't go back to that. No way. And just that, me trying to be a little bit stubborn. And so Jacqueline, sorry, were you aware of any organisations at the time? Because there's a lot of charities nowadays that you know, help people in this kind of situation, because you couldn't have known anything about that, because I'm sure you would have gone to someone, but you were afraid because if I say something, what if I get sent back? So it's like you felt like you had to sleep with those men. And it was. Some people are so evil. It was. I think it was really cruel of my relatives that I was living with, because, and even the worst thing, like even my mom, to a stage after I had my son, my mom didn't actually believe that I was healthy 100%. She thought I had AIDS, because she'd been hearing rumors of the activities that were going on, and she was not happy. So she was really heartbroken. She was thinking, how can this be happening to my child? How can this? But there's nothing that she did to help. And all those things contributed to me being angry. So you knew about these things happening and you did nothing about them. So 16 years old, I took my life into my own hands. I said, you know what? I'm going to do things my way. I knew very little. I was young, naive, in a foreign country. Little did I know. But I said, you know what? I'm going to do things my way. I was taken to a nightclub. Got to a nightclub. Same routine, just hit on the guys for the drinks. If you need a drink, hit on them for drinks, have fun, you know. So you went to a nightclub and you started hitting on the men? I was taken to a nightclub, and that was the aim. So when I got there, I was thinking, then I met this guy. I thought, oh, he's a very nice guy, long story. Nice guy and everything. So I just basically clung on to him. We left the club, we went. He never left my life. For me, I was thinking, he's a nice guy, he's got a job, he has his own house, car, everything. He's really good looking and he looks young, even though he was older. You must have thought you hit the jackpot with him. That was it. So I thought, this I'm not letting go. And I remember going back home. The next couple of days, he was coming to pick me up, taking me out on dates and everything. And they're saying, what is going on? And I said, we're actually serious. He likes me and I like him. What do you know about likes and likes? And I said, I don't know. So basically I was trying to be, you know, bold, trying to sort of escape. So what happened with him? What happened with him, then I had to, basically was thrown out of the family home. I moved in with him and then started a relationship with him and then got married to him, even fell pregnant and everything. And then he switched. It's a long story. He switched. We've got about 3 minutes left. You need to tell it. He switched. We can't do another show on this, Jacqueline. No. He switched to, you know, it's a long story, but he switched, and when he switched, domestic violence, you name it, there was abuse, everything like that was happening to me. What happened? Was he hiding it, or did he just? I think it was hiding it, as well as the frustration. I think he'd realized as well that the pit that he'd put himself into, because I was kind of a messed up kid, if you could say, trying to find my way into adult life. And I think I don't know, he did whatever he did out of pity, trying to help me and everything. He really did a lot to try and help, but it was kind of really difficult. He couldn't have done it on his own. So he himself, domestic violence, you name it, and we had to end up divorcing. And for me, that was the final straw. So after the divorce, after the abuse that I endured with him as well, he was controlling. What were you feeling about yourself after all that you'd been through? What did you think about yourself? How did you feel about yourself inside? I was really angry. I was so depressed that I used to walk past by my house and try, you know, when you go, and I would pass by my house, go into other people's door, put the key in there, and I'm really fighting to open the door, but the door's not opening, only later on to realize I'm opening someone else's door. Many times I wished I could die. And even when I was like 6 months pregnant with my son, that's when the abuse was sort of beginning to unveil itself a bit more. I was suicidal. I attempted suicide when I was 6 months pregnant with my son, and I couldn't feel my baby for 2 days, and I kept quiet around to the hospitals. I was begging them to check me to make sure everything is fine, because I was really scared. But it was all out of, because I was thinking, I can't bring this child into this world. I can't. Everywhere I go, things are failed. If things didn't work in my country, things are not working here. What's the point of bringing in this child? And it didn't work. So I had my child in the end, and the abuse didn't stop. Eventually, we had to end up going separate ways. And for me, it was the thing that was driving me the most to make that decision was my son. And I said, you know what, I have to do this. Maybe not for myself, but I have to do this for my boy. So I made a decision that I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to go out there and speak. And it was scary, because at the time I was 19, and for you to even go out there and speak, even when I was going through the whole divorce hearing and everything, I destroyed a lot of evidence because I was scared and didn't want to speak. And then when it came to the part of speaking, I was scared about, if you speak, they'll take your child away from you. And I was so scared, but I said, you know what, I'm going to go, I'm going to be a good mom, I'm going to go there and I'm going to seek help. And that's the thing that I did. But it wasn't easy. It didn't.
Did you ever dream of a happy life at this point, or did you think, you know what, things have gone so wrong since day one that there is absolutely no hope that I'm ever going to be happy?
I didn't, to be honest. And then I think I'd fallen back into the routine that I was in back in my country of just taking each day as it came, because it was very difficult. Even when I had the case where we had to do the hearing, I had to have like Kafka's officers coming into my house to supervise, because there was a lot of allegations made against me that I'm unfit mom. I had to prove myself, but I said, I'm not going to prove myself the way that they expect me to prove myself. I'm going to be sincere, I'm going to be real, I'm going to be, and it was challenging having people come into your house, sitting there, or my child will wake up, they come very early. My child will wake up and they're taking notes. They won't speak to me. They're taking notes, social workers, socials, everything. I went through all of this and just, but what I was trying to do was, I need help. Yeah. And if you're willing to help me, I am a good mom. And even to the final case, the final court case hearing, the judge said, she's a wonderful mom. All the investigation.
Well, you had plenty of experience of how not to be back in Uganda, didn't you? So.
And that was the thing that was used against me the most. How could she be a parent to a child when she's never had parents? What does she know about being a parent? And it was true. But
your child stayed with you in the end.
My child stayed with me.
Turn your life around.
Great,
and we're going to hear how you did that, because we've got someone or an organisation that helped you do that. They're going to be joining us. Daisy's going to be joining us. And also we have Malcolm joining us, who's a fireman, and he's going to be telling us how he's dealt with things over the years as well. So join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show. Now, you know what? While there are so many people that are doing terrible, terrible things to their fellow human beings, as in Jackline's case, abusing, taking advantage of, all that kind of stuff. But then there's also people that actually put their own lives at risk to save others. And that's the case of Malcolm here, our ex-fireman now. I think you retired. Yeah. So welcome, Malcolm, to the show.
Thank you.
So your business was in, helping people and saving people.
Well,
and you've been through quite a lot of stuff.
The nice thing about the fire service is that we only tend to get called to help people, we get called to anything that you can think of. If the police or the ambulance can't help you, you'll call the fire service, and they are then expected to sort it out. And whatever you're faced with, you're supposed to go in there and know what to do. And of course, you can't be trained for everything, so they train you to be a very general jack of all trades, and then you get confronted with various levels of trauma. We have physical trauma and emotional trauma. I think Jackline had both in her way as well. You would come across, let's say, a car accident where people are trapped, and they're in the most desperate state, and they need to be got out of there as quickly as possible and given to people back at the hospital who can start the recovery process. we were in a team, or we work in a team, so it's far easier for us. We have the group support, so that when we are faced with the most horrendous horror scene, we've got the group support and the training to go and do it. Of course, with Jackline's situation, she was on her own, and to be able to deal with something on your own, I think, takes a far more strength.
But you're going to be telling us some of the stories, like some things that you've been through as well, and how you've helped people on that scale. Because I just think, because, you know, when we hear sort of things like what Jackline went through, we're thinking, God, the human race is so evil sometimes. But then obviously there's people like you that come along that tell us, you know, the other side of things, that there is hope. You know, there are people that are genuine, that really do want to help people. And another one of those is Daisy here. Yeah. Now, you're from a group called the Lone Parents Group. Yes. And you actually helped Jackline, didn't you, when she first came to you? Can you tell us about how you met and what happened?
Well, I remember when she came to the group, she was very young. I think she was one of the youngest person we had in the group. And when I heard her story that she was, I think, 19 when you came in and already divorced, for me that story was really kind of shocking, if I would say. And the trauma that she's been through, it was like impossible to see how you're going to do it. But the group is formed to help people like her, to help people who have no hope, people who are alone in everything they're going through. Because if you see the group, how we work to encourage mothers or those people who are alone to go back where they start, where they stop. When everything starts, there's a point that they were doing something, and all of a sudden something happened to stop what they were doing. So we encourage them to go back to where they stopped. So that's the work of the group. And with Jackline, when she came, she was so traumatized. And I remember one of the things, it was like she didn't
have this lovely smile on her face.
No.
She seems to have pasted on. No. It won't come off.
No. And I think one of the biggest problem I found with her, she couldn't believe that she could be happy again.
Well, she was never happy in the first place. She
but
didn't know what it was like.
Yeah, she didn't believe that she could be married and happy. She couldn't believe that. And every time I sit down with her, it's like that will come up. That was a main issue of love life. Like, she was so traumatized. And but meeting people in the group, I think it helped a lot, because the group, you find people who have the same situation or similar situation like you, or different kind of worse than you, and then you hear them, they kind of break through. How did they do it?
That support is really important, to sort of know people that have been through the same thing. Like you were saying, Malcolm, that group support was really important, because that helps when you know that other people have been through or are going through what you're going through. You don't feel so isolated. You feel like you can talk, you can share, you can go. When you're going for a hard time inside, you know, no one understands, you know that they're going to understand.
Yes. And also the fact that these people have gone through, when you say something, everybody understands. When you say I feel alone, everybody understands what it means, because they are either in the same situation or go past that situation, so they know exactly how to deal with that kind of thing. For example, for myself, I was a single mom. So when when the group started, I could understand everything they were saying. Everything, because I was one of them. So I knew how it felt to be alone. I knew how it felt to be rejected. I knew how it felt to be disappointed, disorganized, because something is that, like, for example, parents who have children without planning. I knew how it can disorganize everything. And sometimes you think, that's it, end of the world. No one who's going to want me. I don't think I'll ever get married again. Who will want me with a child who is not theirs? So all those things comes in your mind. All those fear, doubts come in your mind, that's where the group comes in to support them and help them to overcome that look. It's
now, you got married, didn't you, Daisy?
Yes.
So it wasn't true what you were thinking previously, that no one's going to want me because I've got a child, and who's going to want my child? But your husband embraced your child, didn't he?
Yes. And I used that example to her. When she came in, she said, oh, this and that. And I said, look, I was there. I'm married today, I'm happy. So it can happen to you.
And it happened to you, didn't it, young lady? Because you met someone, you're now happily married. I think we've got some photos, haven't we? Can we have a look at some pictures? All I can see is my face at the moment. Oh, there you go. So you met your hubby.
I did.
Let's see some more pictures. So he treats you nicely, I suspect.
He's amazing. He's really, he's wonderful. And I think for me,
you deserve that happiness.
The biggest fear was, is he going to accept my son? Is he going to...
Well, they look like they're getting on quite well there. That's a play fight, I take it.
They do everything together, everything. Crazy
That's
stuff.
amazing.
And it's nice to have that. when you're hearing it, because I remember, and I think one of the things that I struggled with a lot was opening up.
Yes.
I really didn't, I struggled like trusting people, because so many times I tried to speak to people and I was either not believed, and I thought, you know what, just keep quiet. But the group being there, and sometimes the thing is, being in the group was so helpful, because even though you wouldn't speak and say what you're going through or your feet, they would just look at you and they'll make comments. Yeah. And it wasn't negative comments, it was good comments. It was like, I know how it feels like, but you know what, just take a deep breath, before you know it, you'll be over it. And just,
you managed to turn everything around. Really now you've got like lots of help. You got like you got advice and everything. You got spiritual help as well, didn't you?
I did receive
you received prayers and stuff like that as well. So that obviously must have helped you.
It was a good combo, because if I tried to do it without the other, I don't think I would have been where I am now. So doing the both, for me, it worked wonders. You know, like I was saying earlier, even the things that I've overcome, sometimes I don't speak much about things, because especially around my families, because it really hurts them. My mom feels really, really bad about the things that are happening. So sometimes, and then I sometimes wonder, why is she feeling so horrible about these things? It wasn't her fault. She didn't do it to me. But it's because, for me, I've overcome it so much in such a way that when I look at them, I just can't believe the damage. So it's...
Well, how's your life today?
My life is brilliant. I am dreaming. I
kept saying, what are you doing now?
I'm studying at the moment, as well as working part-time.
Great
and
stuff.
Just balancing everything together with being, my husband always says to me, you have to be careful, you know, I don't want you going, doing this, doing that. You have to make sure that, you know, you still
have someone that cares about you.
Yeah, he's amazing. So, and even when I was putting off like my studies, saying, oh, I can't do it, it's too late, I'm too old. You know, it's just encouraging me, go, pursue your dream.
How old are you, young lady?
I know. So that's how
you just avoided the question. You're not over 30.
I'm 28
there
now.
You go. Oh, you're 28. You don't even look okay. Not too old. Never too old.
Young.
I'm just really happy.
And what would you like to say, like, for example, to the lone parent group that helps you? What would you have to say about them?
I think my life says everything. Part of me is pretty much your work, so thank you. And
but when I think about you as well, Chris, what I will say about Jackline is that most of the things we do is encouragement. It's like that push. And most of the things you did, especially, I remember like things that when you were going through your divorce and you had to go to court, most of the things it's just push and you just go and do it yourself. So she was a good student or good person as well. She was
she
really...
could have done that without... She wasn't on her own anymore. She spent all those years on her own because there was no one there that cared. All she had was abuse. And then just to have those people behind you that believe in you and say, come on, you can do it, we believe in you, we love you, we're going to help you. It just makes all the difference, because I know, because I went through that. Obviously I didn't go through anything like what you did, but when I was going through depression, just knowing that someone understood me and was there and they actually believed that I could get over it, because I was like, oh my God, is this going to be my life? Always, am I always going to be depressed? Am I always going to be having these panic attacks for the rest of my life? I couldn't see any way that I could overcome that, but that just having people supporting me and saying, look, you can get over it, you can be happy, that made such a difference.
Yeah, and the group is about real people. That's one thing I can say is about real people, people who have gone through the same problem. So we have actually, if we receive a person or a single mom or a single parent who has gone through the same Jackline will be the one to help that person. Right? So great. The group is about the real people. We say, okay, we have a young lady who went through the same thing and this is how she did.
And she's able to
she was able to overcome. So the group was about that.
All right, so I encourage all, if you're going for any problems, all your details will be on our website, Daisy, for the lone parent group and everything. Ladies, thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
I'm so happy for you, Jackline. I really am. It's just wonderful how your life has turned out. And that's proof that no matter how awful your life might have been or is at the moment, there's always hope for change, right? Thank you so much, ladies. I'm going to stand with Malcolm now, so you're going to be telling us some of your fireman stories, which I'm really looking forward to hearing as well. So join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome welcome back. And now it's time to talk to our ex-fireman. I could just call you fireman. You with fireman at heart, wouldn't you?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Once a
We've got
fireman.
Malcolm here. Now, Malcolm, you were a fireman for how long?
31 and a half years.
31 and a half. Wow. Okay. And you've been through your fair share of traumatic experiences, being first on the scene with a lot of things. And you've also you wrote a couple of books as well. Which one's first? All
Fired Up's first, and then Great Bales of Fire.
Okay. All Fired Up
second.
and Great Bales. And what are these books about? Your experiences in joining the
Well,
fire brigade?
this is about me joining 30 odd years ago, when it was a whole different service, and the techniques we used in dealing with what the subject matter is tonight, trauma, and dealing with it, were very, very different. So the books cover the whole gamut of me joining as an 18-year-old and confronting a watch of seemingly knowledgeable firemen who all knew exactly what to do, when I was the naive young buck who knew nothing and had to prove myself. And so that they're about the whole range of it. But I mean, going back to those days, when I was 18, I had my very first call out to a car accident.
What was that like?
And suddenly I was confronted with this dead body that was in an awful state. It was like a horror film full of gory makeup, but this was real. And when I got out of the fire engine, I actually froze when I was confronted with this scene. And actually the officer in charge saw me doing this and came up to me and said, "Castle, get the Sanger saw." And that startled me out of it, and I got on with doing the job. And when we left, the black humour started. So in that very first incident, I realised that not only do we deal with people in various levels of physical and emotional trauma when we're called to that, but we have it ourselves. We are confronted with these situations. We have to
sort
do
of think
our best.
about that, because obviously we always sort of think police, the ambulance service, fire service, they're kind of like almost immune to it, but we don't kind of think about what you guys go through as well when you see things like this.
No, I learned very quickly that the way to deal with it from our point of view, and perhaps in many ways Jackline would have come across this, that you did try and detach yourself away from the emotion. You get on with the practical side of getting on with life or getting on with the job, and you detach yourself from the emotion.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're confronted with such an emotional situation that it breaks through your barriers, and then you have to find a way of dealing with it.
What's the worst that you've come across?
Well, the worst for me, bizarrely, not the gore and the blood, but actually both involved children. When we went to a 7-year-old boy who had been caught underwater and drowned, and we went and rescued him, and I was in a position, it could have been any of my colleagues, but I was in a position that I lifted him out of the water. And as I lifted him up by his arm, there was this little pale 7-year-old body, and his eyes were open and they were looking at me, but they were empty. He was dead, and I handed him to my colleagues in the bank. And I'd had my first child, and she was about that age, and the trauma of seeing this little dead limp body was awful. But the worst of it was, I then started questioning, could I have done anything about it? Could I have saved him? Could I have done this? Could I have done that? And practically, I couldn't. And numerous times I've talked about it, and I couldn't have. But you still torture yourself with, yes, but perhaps, maybe, And so that was hard for me. The other one was unfortunately a driver, a woman, pulled out of a side road with her baby in an infant carrier in the passenger seat, and was struck by a car at high speed that knocked the baby in the car seat onto her lap and trapped her in the car. So the baby, unfortunately, was killed. And by the time we got there, because the ambulance would be called first, by the time we got there, she'd been in this situation for half an hour.
Oh my God, it's awful. Looking
at her dead baby. So she was in the most horrendous traumatic situation.
What do you do in that situation when someone is,
the ambulance service were there and they were trying to console her, but she was way past that. They can administer drugs, but they can't knock her out because They like to be able to see the state they're in. The medical state they're in, I have to say that. They had done their best, but she was completely trapped in there, in this crumpled car. So when we arrived there, we cut her out and sent her to hospital. But she was completely traumatized. And it manifested itself in, she swung violently from complete silence and looking into the middle distance to screaming and traumatic, uncontrolled screaming. And that got through my defences, because you could argue that she was possibly to blame for the accident, but even that's an arguable point. The fact was, she was in this situation, and you felt so for her. You couldn't just.
What about the people though that you've sort of come across, that you've actually saved them? You've done something that must be wonderful as well. You have to go through all this stuff, but what about some things that have happened that have been wonderful? It
is just truly wonderful. When you get called to someone who's in need of your help, it's a very powerful emotion, because you get out of the fire engine and you've got to deal with it as quickly as you can. And sometimes it's not too much of a cliche to say seconds count. You can't take too many lungfuls of smoke in a house fire before you're unconscious, and then unfortunately on to death. So seconds do count, and if you can save someone from that very, very near-death experience and bring them back, well, there's few feelings better, really. I mean, there's some wonderful stories that were in the books of when we rescued animals.
Does that happen a lot? Do you get called out for cut up a tree and stuff, or is that just like...
Oh yeah, we have.
Really?
I've been to 2 cats up trees, both on the same Sunday afternoon in 30 years, bizarrely. But we don't rescue the cats for the cat's sake, by the way. We rescue them for the owner's sake.
Okay.
You never see a dead cat or a cat skeleton up a tree. If they can get up, they can get down. But the owners who've seen little Kitty up there for 3 days think they need to get it down. So we'll rescue the cat for the owner's sake. But even that's nice. I mean, we've rescued things as small as a hamster. You could call it an insignificant hamster. But that little lad, whose hamster it was, who was convinced his hamster had died, just to be able to say, no, he's still alive, it made his day. So even the really small things, it doesn't have to be big and dynamic and dramatic.
But it's important to that person.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you can go home and think, I did a good job there.
Anything that you've seen that's really shocked you in the terms of like lucky escapes?
Well, there is a lovely story of, we were called to a car accident, 12 o'clock midnight, where a lorry had reversed across the road to go back the way he'd come. And as it was an articulated lorry, so as he'd pulled out from the side road, a car had come round a corner at about 50 miles an hour and slammed into the side of the trailer. And the roof of the Nissan Bluebird had been cut off and was now sitting over the boot of the car. And it was just like a hard-boiled egg.
Oh, God.
And this scene that we were confronted with, we thought, well, I know my window wipers are there on my car, so we're going to have a decapitation here. But I actually got out of the appliance, and while everyone was getting the equipment ready, because I was driving, I had to get my kit on, and as I was doing it, I looked underneath the lorry, and I saw a set of eyes looking back at me from the passenger seat. And look, they were alive, it's okay. And so I said this ridiculous line, are you all right? And she said, yes, I'm fine. I said, well, how's the driver? And she said, well, he's all right too.
But how did they manage?
Well,
how?
My next line was the worst I'd ever delivered, because my next line was, wait there. I mean, what were they going to do? Anyway, so I went to the officer in charge and told him, and he obviously, you can imagine, he told me where to go. This is ridiculous. How could they possibly? And but when I convinced him, they said, right, let's get this as a live recovery.
Yeah.
We rescued the people by lowering the car, by letting the tyres down. Just a common sense, let the tyres down. The car falls away from the trailer, and we pulled it out on a winch, Do you know the woman got out like a woman down in Marbella jumping out of a convertible car, not a bruise on her. And the driver...
But I'm just wondering, how did they just lean back?
She was asleep in the car. She reclined her seat, was asleep in the car, and the beam went over her head. The driver was slightly reclined, and at the last possible second, he had just done that. And the beam of the trailer had skinned his knuckle, skinned his forehead, skinned his shoulder. And do you know, he got out of that car, just holding his arm like that. And they both walked over to the ambulance.
They must have been in shock. Or were they like...
Well, do you know what? I think we were in shock. They would have had, I suppose, a small example of post-traumatic stress. They were so relieved to have got away with it that there would have been a dawning realization at some point of
what could have happened.
What could have happened. We were so close to death. In that situation, it was a happy situation. It wasn't a traumatic situation really at all for us. We were agog that someone, it was obviously not their time. They you know, if you believe in fate, there's your example. That
someone was looking out for them, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Malcolm, guess what? We've run out of time, and I have to bring you back. I want to hear some more stories. It's just too interesting.
Well, I enjoyed the trip down here, so and the food down here is great. So,
is it?
So I will. Yeah, I'll come down and talk as often as you like.
I think our viewers would love to hear, because I'm really interested to hear more about. I don't want to finish. Do I have to finish the show, guys? Yeah, she's saying, unfortunately, yes. Okay, I could go on for another hour. Malcolm, thank you so much.
There's no one talking to my ear. If you want to just watch me.
Thank you so much for coming down and telling the viewers your stories, and I'm sure they're going to hear more from you very soon, if you can.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that okay?
That's fine.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I've officially invited Malcolm back on air live for everyone to see. So, all right, and anyway, we have spoken about quite a few things today, and as I said, you know, people have gone through all sorts of things, and there's some people that just shut off to any hope of ever recovering or getting better or ever being happy. But hopefully the show here tonight has proven to you that it is possible, no matter what you have been through, no matter what you think about yourself, that you can turn your life around with the right help and with the right support. So if you do need any help, please, you can email me on chris@chrissybshow.tv. I can put you in touch with organisations that can help you. And, you know, if you just want to chat, and if you just want to talk to me, I'm also here for you. I'm willing to help you as well. So we have to go now, but do have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you again next time on the Chrissy B Show. Bye-bye for now.
And I mean, I've just seen around your building, there are certain snacks that you promote and certain snacks that you discourage, you know, such as oh, forget about that. No, go ahead, just keep going. Right, let's do that again. And why do you think cooking is important?
Or else you die if you don't eat.
And if people do want to find out more information about the Kids Cookery School, where can they go to?
It's very simple. It's the Kids Cookery School at... Oh, that's the sorry.